Hello everyone, this is Chester channel. My name is Kirill and we talk about watches here. Today we have the Promaster Aqualand, a diver from Citizen, which stands out not only with its beautiful colors but also with its unusual case design. You can purchase the BN2038-01L model in my store chesterclub.com, and not only it, the Citizen brand is represented with a wide range of models. All links will be in the description. Yes, the model looks unusual and most importantly, asymmetrical. The left side of the case visually takes up more space due to two large protected buttons thanks to this protrusion. Here we have a special membrane that reads water pressure. We see that there's also an additional protective rim around it. On the right side, the crown is shifted downward, which is convenient. It is also screwed down like the button guards. And in the center, there's a water sensor. That means as soon as water hits it, the watch automatically switches to dive mode. Well, the case is generally steel satin finished with no surprises. The thickness is quite substantial. Well, a substantial bezel, high ribbed sides, insert in Pepsi style. So the first third is red, followed by blue, minute markings and a luminous dot. In general, all the diver's features. The only thing is that it rotates in one direction and not 120 clicks, but 60. That's how it works, but it rotates easily, by the way, without any effort. And flat mineral glass. Here too, no surprises, not sapphire, but still it doesn't protrude beyond the bezel level, so it's protected in principle. The most interesting thing, of course, is what's under the glass. It's a blue dial that harmonizes beautifully with the strap, the bezel insert, and the blue outer ring of the dial. It's also tall, so the dial lies as deep as possible. Again, an analogy with the depth gauge that is present here. And judging by the scale, we understand that the maximum is 70 meters. In fact, this is very decent. I remind you that we had a Citizen Promaster Aqualand with a depth gauge, even with a chronograph and even with sapphire glass, but there the maximum measurement limit was 50 meters. Here it's 70. And besides the main hands, hour, minute pointed with luminescent material, besides the second hand also with luminescent material, we see two additional hands. Currently they are one above the other. The red one is longer and the gray hand is shorter, but it actually has a long tip. That's precisely how I, by pressing the lower button, call up the last measurements of the maximum depth we dived. And now you can make it out, this hand right here. These hands will move simultaneously as soon as you start diving. Accordingly, you dive, they move, 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 move. As soon as you reach the maximum depth, the gray hand will stay in place and indicate it, that is, show your maximum result, while the red one will go back during the ascent accordingly. And if your ascent is too fast, around 9 meters per minute or faster, a 10-second sound signal will notify you of this. By the way, we can listen to it now. Press the lower B button and then the upper A. That's how it will happen. Well, if you suddenly decide to dive more than 70 meters, the hands will remain in the over position, and then during the ascent, the red one will move back while the gray one will stay here. By the way, up to 40 meters, you will see the hand move every meter. And after 40, we see the division goes every 2 meters. There's also a pointer near the 9 o'clock position. It is now showing the charge level. Yes, here is Eco Drive, meaning it charges from solar energy or any light source, and approximately 340 days of power reserve. So it's solid, of course. And I would also like to note, of course, that this is a certified diver. The inscription "Divers 200 meters" tells us about this. In other words, the watch is ready, naturally, of course, ready for the most professional dives. On the back cover, we see no surprises except for this inscription here, which also mentions the anti-magnetic properties, 4,800 amperes. Well, the mechanism itself is, of course, operated as simply as possible. We unscrew the crown. The first position is for changing the date clockwise, then we change the time. By the way, the main hands are not so sensitive, meaning they respond slowly to the movement of the crown. This means we can set the time as accurately as possible. Changing the date, I'll show you now. Here's an interesting point. The date starts changing ahead of time. This starts around 10:30 and ends about 10 minutes to 12. So there goes the date. And by the way, notice how the date fits nicely right into the index, which you don't see often. It looks ergonomic and design-wise, it's great, of course. Since the diver level is certified, naturally there are no problems with the luminous material. It's beautiful light green. But pay attention to the depth gauge hands. They already give off a turquoise hue. In the dark, this adds extra charm. The dimensions are substantial. Yes, of course, on a wrist with a circumference of about 18 centimeters, I think they will fit perfectly. My wrist circumference is 16.5 centimeters, slightly too large. The case height from lug to lug is 51.6 millimeters, diameter 46 millimeters. Note, this is the pure case diameter without these protrusions. Well, the thickness is 16.3 millimeters. By the way, from the side, we can clearly see the circumference here, this membrane rim. Moreover, it does not press against the wrist. In general, of course, they made the case as ergonomic as possible here because there are no crowns around 3. You can move your hand freely. These protrusions, buttons, don't interfere. In other words, it's very convenient. I would like to point out the strap. It is extremely pleasant, made of polyurethane. The color matches the color of the dial, and it has Promaster branding. Not only the logo, but also the inscription Promaster is duplicated on the strap. The buckle is solid, thick, branded for wrists from 15 to 21.5 centimeters. And by the way, not such a large weight, 135 grams. But in principle, the watch feels noticeable on the wrist. Конечно, of course, 90 to 95% of people buying these models are far from being divers, not scuba divers. Naturally, these models are mostly bought for relaxation, sea vacations, and also for urban environments. And I think they will match well. Well, of course, relaxation, vacation in general is excellent sea, and the urban environment, well, probably too if you have a large wrist. You can wear them on a bare wrist or, for example, with some blue sweater. Quite decent. Overall, their style is somewhat sporty and the Pepsi insert makes itself known. But naturally, the model will attract attention. The design is, to put it mildly, striking. And to conclude, I would like to note the authenticity of Citizen divers. No matter how many I come across, you always understand that there's a special touch here. And even if you remove the brand from the dial, you would still recognize them. For example, if you take Seiko and Orient, their divers have many similarities. Yes, it's one company, Epson, but still, Citizen is recognizable. And this membrane is interesting, and the depth sensor. There are unique features that are recognizable, definitely. Yes, perhaps these buttons may seem unnecessary to someone because they are often bought for urban use, while the buttons are essentially used only during dives for measuring depth. Therefore, well, you probably won't use them, just like this membrane, like this sensor. But perhaps you should choose this model for the city if you like it visually, because there are absolutely no questions about its quality here. Yes, of course, steel and mineral glass, not titanium and not sapphire. Perhaps someone expected those, but still here you have diver level water resistance, anti-magnetic protection, an eco-drive mechanism with power reserve indication, and an excellent luminescent coating. So in terms of quality, I have no complaints, nor do I have any regarding the ergonomics. And accordingly, if you like their appearance, I highly recommend them because it's hard to find something similar, especially at such a budget. We have them at a very attractive price. In the end, I would like to know your opinion about this model. Be sure to leave it in the comments below the video. And if you liked it, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That's all. Goodbye, everyone.